Hello, welcome to Forest Focus. No game this weekend, but plenty just to discuss, most notably the future of Orel Mangala at Nottingham Forest with clubs in Italy linked with his signature. We'll discuss that, more transfer news, and take a few of your questions in the company of, first of all, Reds fan Emily Anderson. Emily, good evening. You well?
Good evening. Happy Friday. Yeah, all good. I've had some pizza, so I'm happy. Oh, and a glass of wine, but don't worry, I'm fine.
Yeah, not too much wine. Yeah, we'll be all right.
A glass. It's like it doesn't touch the sides. Don't even worry about
it. Second guest this evening is Greg Mitchell. Greg, are you well?
Yeah, 3 minutes late. That's almost on time, isn't it, for us? So doing well. Good start.
Yeah. It's all right to be fashionably late, I think. Michael Dawson was early the other day when I spoke to him. Check that out if you haven't seen it. And he said, if you're on time, you're late, which I think is a footballer's mentality around training. Although Prutz is always like late, basically. So it didn't expand to everyone. Right. What should I start with? I'll start with just mentioning channel membership, because you can now sign up to be a member and support the channel. We launched that this evening about 5 o'clock and already had some people signed up. So thanks to the likes of Ant, John, Ed, Ian, Dave, Random P, YouTube name, Mark, Jimmy, D Minor, Paul, Sally, Greg, not you, Greg Oram, of course, Sean Jones, Jackie Howarth, Damon Hazel, Paul Bakewell, and anyone else who signs up after this. Very much appreciate your support. You can press join on the homepage of the channel and lend us your support. Right, let's kick off with Mangala. Emily, reports that Juventus and Napoli in Serie A are keen on him, and also Galatasaray. It was all about a permanent deal, but in the last half hour or so, reports in Italy that Napoli want to take him on loan. We can get into the intricacies of the deal shortly, but what are your initial thoughts on the prospect of him potentially leaving?
Initially, really shocked. I mean, it wasn't even in my thinking that Mangala could be a player that is going to be leaving the club in the January transfer window, or even in the summer, because he's been such an integral part of the team since he joined us in July 2022, and particularly this year. I'd say he's been our most consistent player, and we were already talking about him as a potential player of the season. But unfortunately, since Nuno's started, I know it's only been a couple of games, but he's not featured. And whether he doesn't fit into Nuno's plans, or is there another reason why he wants to or needs to go? I guess for the player, it could potentially be a good move. And I think out of all the positions that we've got at the club, we are really well stocked with midfielders, aren't we? So it wouldn't be the end of the world if he goes. But I just think he brings so much to the team that I'm just really surprised. I'm really surprised that we're talking about a potential Mangala exit, because, like I say, he's someone that, God, why would we want to get rid of him? But maybe there's stuff we don't know.
What's your initial take on it, Greg? It does seem surprising. We are well stocked in midfield, but he's been so good this season. It would have come as a shock, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's Mr. Steady, isn't he? It's that player that you rarely talk about because he always does a decent job. It's a real surprise. Whether we're firefighting a bit with financial fair play, or, like you say, the player might be interested. It's funny how Italy seems to be the main place where all the rumours and all the stories are coming from. So there might be something in it there, but it'd be a real shame to see him go. But at the end of the day, if Nuno doesn't fancy him for whatever reason, then, let him play football and get us some money. But that's the thing. I don't understand the loan thing. We need money. We need money in the bank, don't we, to be able to continue and try and work around this whole ridiculous financial fair play thing. So if he does go, for me, it has to be a sale, surely.
Let's have a look at a few comments. Ed says, Shane's move on, but always, what's TPTB stand for? Proof that. Let's know, Ed. We have to, players make choices, we have to understand it. Given the chance to move to Napoli or Juve, he might want to leave, and it's hard to keep a player against their wishes. Yeah, I mean, his head certainly could have been turned by the prospect of moving to a club that big, but Forest must have given them some encouragement that they'd be willing to sell as well. What else? Let's have a look at a couple more. Greg Oram, bonkers let Mangala go. Do we have to trust the process? What would I mean? It's the loan thing, Emily, isn't it? I guess let's assume that this loan report's accurate and it's only one report. It could be like a loan to buy, like Chris Wood. And
that's what I thought. Yeah, I thought it must be something like loan with an option or an obligation to buy. I wonder whether Napoli or Juventus or whoever's looking at him. Do we know which team's looking at him for a loan? I've not actually seen the report. Napoli. Maybe they just want to literally try before they buy, just check that he fits into their plans. And actually, you were talking about it just then. I guess from Mangala's point of view, it's quite an attractive prospect, isn't it, to go to Napoli, who are in the Champions League. Last season particularly, they had such a great season, didn't they, in Serie A? So you can understand why his head may have been turned. And I wonder whether, there were musings or whisperings that actually maybe he wasn't part of Nuno's squad. So maybe he might have sought something out through his agent. You just don't know. But the loan scenario feels odd to me from Forest's point of view, because for us it'll be about balancing the books, won't it? I guess it takes him off our wage bill for the rest of the season, but you'd hope there'd be some sort of obligation to buy clause at the end of it if that was to happen.
Yeah, we don't know the timeline of it, do we, really? It could be like someone said to Nuno higher up in the club, oh, this player might be leaving. Nuno thought, I'm going to have a look at others, and that's why. Or it might be he's not playing and the interest has come and he thought, well, I'm not playing, so, I could go play in the Champions League. So we don't know on that front yet. I mean, the reports, Greg, around a permanent deal were saying around 25 million euros, which is 21 million quid. We paid 12.75 million for him, I think, and he's got 2 years left on his contract. Does 21 million quid feel a little light, or is that about market value now?
I'd imagine it's probably about right. You get an extra 10 million in the pockets or what have you. But for me, just because it's so soon into Nuno's tenure, you'd think the club and him will be on the same page this early on. So it must be a him decision. It must be this player isn't my kind of player type thing, and let's see if we can get any money for him, because as good as our squad's done over the past year, there's not many that are going to create an income for us to be able to buy further. There'll be a player in his mind that can do a better job for him. I'd hope so. And that's why he's gone this way. But it must be a Nuno. It must be a green light from him for this to happen.
Yeah, you'd hope so. Thanks to Red Dog Cooks for signing up for membership as well. Midstream, I should give people a shout if they do sign up during the streams. What does it mean on the pitch, Emily, if he does go? Because like you said at the top, we are well stocked. We've got, Sangare's away, but we've still got Yates and Danilo. We've got Dominguez who can play in there. Check Koyate to come back as well. It's probably the one area of the pitch where you can see someone go. So how much of an impact would it have for us?
I think it would make an impact in the fact that, like Greg said, he's our steady Eddie that we don't have to talk about because he's so consistent. But he's also a ball player, isn't he? If you think about some of those runs through he's made, particularly in sort of the end of Cooper's tenure, he kind of does a job without us knowing. And I guess that is his role, isn't it, as a relatively defensive midfielder. I think we would miss him. I guess I'm just sort of still in a bit of shock that he could potentially be going. But I just think that clearly there are other players that Nuno thinks could maybe bridge that gap. I mean, he's favoured Yates, hasn't he, as a starter for us? And there are plenty of others that could fit in there, because the ideal is to bring in obviously Sangare and Dominguez and then probably one other. But I think we'll be okay. I think I think we'd be fine. Because, like I say, midfield's an area where we seem relatively okay. But are we going to miss that steady Eddie? Are we suddenly not going to be robust at the back and have someone that can pick up those balls and make those what are known as simple passes but really vital passes in a game? We've done all right with him the last few games, though, haven't we? Because he didn't feature against Newcastle and Manchester United, and they were two games where we, obviously we came out on top, but we also played some good football and we played some good attacking football. So I guess if you look at those last two games, that's proof that we can do okay without him.
I thought he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet, to be honest, when Nuno came in. Because you look at how, I've said this before, how he played with Neves and Moutinho at Wolves as players who were good on the ball. Mangala fit it really well. Obviously, we've got Sangare who could do that role really well. But against Blackpool, when you've got Ryan Yates coming to fetch the ball off defenders and Danilo's, he was loose on the ball against Blackpool. it didn't. I don't. It didn't fill me with too much confidence. But yeah, I thought there'd be a role for him. What do you think about our midfield, Greg, if he goes?
We've still got midfield's probably the place where we're most stacked. We've got the most options in midfield, and he must be seeing a different way to play that doesn't feature Mangala. And like Emily said, we've played 2 without him already. It's not the biggest shock if it was a Gibbs White or someone like that. It's bad. I'd rather keep him, but if we're going to get an income, this is just how football's going to be, isn't it? It's how we're going to have to continue to progress in the Premier League. We're going to have to sell, or we're going to be ending up with points deductions every year, and it's just not sustainable. So unfortunately, they probably looked at the squad and said, who can get us money, who's willing to move on, and he must have been earmarked. But the midfield will be fine. It's already proven it's been fine without him the last couple of games. So it is the area of the pitch I think we can afford to let someone go. And I don't want him to leave. And he's always the ones with the good songs, isn't it? But I just think if it is going to have to be someone, then maybe he is the sacrificial lamb as such.
Thanks from people signing up as members or joining the streams. Great. Thanks to Jack and thanks to Jessica for signing up. Really appreciate that. Like Greg says, Emily, I suppose if we sell Mangala and then don't have to sell a Morgan Gibbs White, who is kind of essential and really hard to replace in the summer, then it does sit a lot more comfortably, I guess, doesn't it? It's one where we just don't know the story behind it massively.
Yeah, I think to us fans, it's come out of the blue, hasn't it? There have been no sort of whisperings about it. So I'd say for us, it's more about the shock that we didn't know, rather than the impact it could potentially have. If we were talking about Morgan Gibbs White potentially going now, I think we'd all be having a very different conversation, because a Morgan Gibbs White type player isn't a player that you can just pick up or just slot someone else into his position. And we know what he offers. I think so for me, it's just the fact that it's such a surprise that I didn't see it coming. But essentially, yes, if it takes the pressure off as selling a Morgan Gibbs White or a Taiwo or Wonyi, then I'm here for it, quite frankly, because again, when fit, Taiwo's a striker that most clubs are going to want to have in their team, because we know what he offers. So if we can hang on to players like that, then like Greg said, I don't want Mangala to leave, but if he's the one that's got to go, so be it. We will be fine without him.
Is it the Premier League reality then, Greg? As long as we don't sell 4 or 5 players, or even 3 players, if we sell 1 player this window and 1 in the summer, is that the market that you have to operate in, like other clubs of our size have done for so long?
It's becoming like that, isn't it? Brighton, Brentford, they're perfect examples of how you stay in the Premier League, it seems. And as soon as a player reaches an amount, no matter how good they are, they let them go, don't they? It's just a buying and selling. Like I said, I think the previous episode, it's getting to the point where your accountant's as important as your best striker. So we must be looking at it like that, and looking at it and how we're going to sustain this Premier League run. Like I say, I do not want him to go. He's been an absolutely brilliant player for us, the steady one, like absolutely really good. But I just think that it looks like either we don't know, do we? It might be him pushing it. It might be his agent pushing it. It's exciting being offered to a Champions League club, isn't it? But I don't know. We'll see. It might be nothing. It might be paper talk.
Did you hear my daughter shouting then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a classic mum, I thought it was me. I was about to go, shut up.
That's what I thought as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Where were we? Oh, yeah. Thanks to James for signing up as well. And Mark mentions here. So this is the frustration, I guess, Emily. We need to be selling fringe players, not first team players. Like, we have wasted quite a lot of money. And really, if we're selling a player, it's only cancelling out a transfer that's failed in effect, which does great on people, I guess.
Yeah, I get that. But I guess from the club's point of view, it's really hard to sell fringe players that aren't playing week in, week out. So why are clubs going to suddenly want a player that's sat on our bench or not even making the first team squad of a match day? They're going to be looking at the likes of Mangala. I think maybe it's such a cliche to say this, but we kind of have to trust the process, i.e. there might be fringe players that are going to go out to other clubs later in the transfer window. This is just the first big one, I think, that we've all come across. But yeah, I mean, you know, how many times have we said it? You know, with our massively inflated squad, we've got players that we need to get rid of. I just think we need to be patient, and actually maybe Mangala is the big money transfer that maybe we need to make in January. But yeah, it is really frustrating. But then I can also see why it would be really hard to attract maybe some interest from players that aren't featuring at all for us, that aren't even, like I say, aren't even making our matchday squad.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel, someone's in the comments, I can't remember who it was. It feels like more than paper talk because it's quite reliable. So it's the guy who first broke it was it Florian Pettenberg from Sky Germany, and he's on top of transfer, especially obviously Mangala played in Germany, so it does feel legit. I guess we have to wait and see the terms of the deal if he does go, and hope we get a good deal out of it, you know, get a good fee if he does move on, certainly. Right, let's give a plug for our sponsors, as always, the Trent Navigation, and I always give out these, you know, short chatty plugs. So here's a video that shows what they're all about if you haven't been down there. So watch this and we'll be back in precisely 17 seconds. Very good for YouTube, not so good for audio. So I appreciate people's patience there. But it did look good, and it shows how good the nav is. So get down there. And if you are listening on audio and you missed that, then I'll give a second very quick plug. So I've got loads of these cool graphics now. You can get Sunday roasts on Sunday, obviously, with locally sourced meat for good prices, good food. I'm almost sounding slightly professional doing these plugs now after doing them for so long. So yeah, get down there and support them because they support us so well. Right, let's move on to a different topic and we'll see how Mangala pans out in the next few days. One player linked with us who could potentially come in is Shea Adams, again linked, going back to all the way back to last summer when we came up. I think he's out of contract in the summer at Southampton, Greg. We do need a striker potentially. Would it fit in for you, or should we be aiming a bit higher? It comes down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just depends where we are with things, doesn't it? That's probably why Mangala is having to go to bring in a striker, which is critical. It's one of them you can't really judge until you see. He has got a decent scoring record. I know Southampton struggled like anything, didn't they, last season? He still scored some goals. He's, late 20s, 27, 28. So, yeah, it could work. It just depends how much we're willing to pay again. When did you say his contract runs out? End of this season?
Oh, in the summer.
Yeah, so it's not going to be big money, is it? It's not going to be big risk. Southampton wouldn't have been paying, extortionate wages. So maybe that is the kind of player that's going to have to come in now for the next few transfer windows, just till we steady the ship with all the finances.
He's 27, so he is in his peak years. He's played for his country, Emily. He's got there's a championship this season, 6 goals and 2 assists in 22 appearances. Obviously not, I don't think all of those are starts. He's one of these players who's done well in fits and starts in the Premier League, and he has the experience. So what would you think about it, Emily?
When I first heard his name mentioned, I must admit I was a bit meh. But you sort of look into him actually, and you think he is proven in the Premier League because he scored some goals for Southampton, and that was a very weak Southampton in the Premier League as well. But he was still scoring goals. Of course, he probably had James Ward-Prowse to help him with that. And he's having an okay season in the Championship this season as well. I don't think we'd be paying extortionate money for him, so I don't feel like it would be a huge risk because his contract's going to run out, so that will help with the money side of things. I think he likes to play the long ball, doesn't he? So he likes to run onto balls, and that might work with Murillo. Murillo loves playing that crossfield long ball, doesn't he? So maybe that will work. I think I would be happy if we signed him. He would be a great backup to Taiwo, I think, and probably a similar level to Chris Wood, I would probably say. Obviously nowhere near the likes of Taiwo. But I think there's competition from Wolves and Crystal Palace. So I think we've been linked with him before. So whether we get him or not, I'd be happy either way. And I think at the moment, with the current financial state of things, you said about aiming higher, but I think we've just got to get what we can get at the moment. And if Nuno sees him as a potential extra striker, then great.
I just someone said about Fabrizio Romano tweeting about it. I can't see anything, but it does say Renan Lodi going to Saudi Arabia for 20 million.
I have seen that. Yeah, I saw that before. Just before we popped on, really surprised by that actually. Things not going well at Olympique Marseille then? No, feels like such a shame, isn't it?
Feels like a waste of a player's career at that age if they go to Saudi.
Really, yeah, really. Because I was gutted when he left actually, because he had such a great season with us, and I thought maybe for him he was moving on to better things. But yeah, I saw Fabrizio Romano tweeting that, which normally means it's happening, doesn't it?
Yeah, true. I think this is more of a tentative link around Adams at this stage, but we are interested in sort of a striker, which leads into a question we had on Twitter from Michael Cooper, who's a regular listener. What's more of a priority, Greg? And I'll ask Emily as well. Goalkeeper, striker, or winger? He asked for 2 names in each position, but that's really tough. But if you've got any names that spring to mind, any priority around what you think we need January, let us know.
It'll be a goalkeeper for me, and I think we'll head the loan market for a goalie. It's worked for us previously, hasn't it? And I think to get the quality required to keep you in the Premier League, we probably can't afford that top 20 goalkeeper at the minute. But there's some very, very good teams with 2 or 3 good goalkeepers, and maybe we have to beg and borrow that way to get one, which has worked in the past, hasn't it? Because we're certainly not going to be able to get a Samba back through the door, or Hendo's obviously gone. I think Navas is the answer. So I know this one isn't really a possibility, but a player of the likes of Ramsdale would be like ideal for us. So yeah, the goalkeeper's the priority, and then for me, obviously, striker. I know the comments disagreed with me mainly, but I do think our midfield's okay, even without Mangala. I don't think that's the issue.
Yeah, it's funny like that. No one's saying we need to sign a midfielder, even if we sell Mangala. Those are the 3. I guess. I mean, obviously, Emily will find out more around this on Monday around FFP charges and any news around that. So that would certainly qualify any conversation. And we don't know about Anthony Elanga's fitness properly yet. If he's out for any period of time, that's a big problem. But what about you, goalkeeper, striker, or winger, and any associated names?
I think it'd have to be a goalkeeper again. I should try and be different, but that's where we need to get a player in. We've got 4 goalkeepers, haven't we? Horvath, Hennessy, Taylor, and Vlachodimos. And out of those 4, I just don't feel comfortable. I feel like at the moment the goalkeeper is our Achilles heel. It's our weak point. And in the Premier League, you need someone between the sticks that you can trust. And yeah, in an ideal world, let's take Ramsdale for the rest of the season, but I don't think Arsenal would be interested in that. And that's for me a bit pie in the sky. I know they were looking at Jose Sarr, weren't they? Potentially being reunited with Nuno. But yeah, I think we'd need a proper name and a goalkeeper that is proven in the Premier League. I wouldn't see it as being enough of a risk to bring someone in, say, from a European club or elsewhere that hasn't played in the Premier League. We need someone a bit like, I guess, a bit like Keylor Navas last season. I know earlier on over Christmas there was talk of him coming, but again, he's injury prone. He's not really played this season, and he's obviously getting on a bit. But yeah, goalkeeper for me, because we've seen from the other end of the pitch, we can score goals, and we can score goals without Taiwo. So. Yes, I would love to get a striker in, but my priority, if we were only allowed to sign in one position, it would certainly be a goalkeeper.
It's a bit boring, isn't it? I'd say goalie as well, because if we're right and Taiwo's not a million miles away from coming back, then that would, certainly make our attack stronger and give us a different option. And Origi's still there as well. You can't discount him. And Hudson-Odoi's doing well. Dominguez got an eye for goal and can break forward. So yeah, Elanga is a bit of a concern if he is out for a while. But people mentioned Ramsdale, you mentioned Jose Sarr, Fergus mentioned Sam Johnson, who I guess is number 2 now at Palace. So there might be a few names floating about, but even if money's tight, then as Greg says, I think the loan market is probably the one that you would exploit. People have been discussing Patrick Bamford. Has he been linked particularly?
After that, as soon as he scored that wonder goal in the week, I thought, here we go. And it was all over the timeline. He's got such a strong connection to this club, hasn't he? In years gone past, and when we sold him, that helped us massively. And he's I think he was Nigel Doughty's godson, wasn't he? And you could tell he still loves this club. So has the time passed for Patrick Bamford, though? I'd say maybe for us. But if he was announced next week, it'd make me smile anyway. I'd love to see him back in a Forest shirt, but not sure whether it'd be the wisest move.
No, he's got 2 goals for Leeds this season. One was an absolute worldie at the weekend, and the other one was in the previous game. So he's got 2 in 2 if you take it that way. I think he still lives in Nottingham. I'm not sure, or in and around the area with his family. But yeah, he's been struggled with injuries a lot and confidence. So we shall see. It sort of leads on to another topic around size of the squad we were discussing. Loan players coming back. Hwang, another striker's come back from Norwich. He's injured. Alex Mighten's come back from playing in Belgium, or not playing too much. He's only started 2 games out there. Jonathan Panzo's at Cardiff, but not really playing, so he might go somewhere else. Emmanuel Dennis is in Turkey, but not really playing or doing a lot, so he might go somewhere else. I don't know, Emily, it just highlights bad business, really, to me. Like, why we signed Hwang I've never understood that one. I don't know. Is it stating the obvious? We've got a problem with squad size, and having players come back only emphasises it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and of those names you all listed, there's no one that you think, oh yeah, they could slot into our squad. Mighten's one that's, I mean, he's still relatively young, isn't he? But he's one that I always liked him. You know, when he came on for cameos in the Championship, and he was really great bombing down that wing. So maybe he just needs a bit more time. But Emmanuel Dennis was a huge disappointment. When he signed, I was really excited, thinking, oh, yeah, great, we've got a goal scorer. And then he's played, a handful of times for this in Turkey, and he's not scored a goal. He's still not scored a goal all season. And that's pretty shocking, isn't it, when you're a striker? And I think Jonathan Panzo's linked with a move back to Coventry, isn't he? So he could, I think he did all right there before. So, you know, maybe that's a good move for him. But yeah, it does. You're right. With these loan players coming back or moving on to potentially different loans, it just shows you, doesn't it? These fringe players that we were talking about, why can't we sell these fringe players? These are great examples of that actually, if we could get them off our books, that would really, really help. Because, you know, you said Hwang and Mighten are back on our books now, aren't they? And I don't see them anywhere near our first team squad.
Yeah, Mighten's a bit of a shame, Greg, isn't he, really? Because he was bright, but he never got the opportunities to start games, and it feels like he's stalled a bit now. We probably progressed beyond him as where he's at present, do you think?
Yeah, I was just about to say he's a victim of our success, isn't he? He'd have been in our Championship squad, no doubt at all. His raw pace, you know, the way he could move that ball, it just really, really good. But he hasn't been given the opportunity to cut it in the Premier League, and that's probably for good reason. And he'll be a fantastic player for someone in the Championship, I'm certain. I think he's the lowest paid player in the Premier League as well when all that came out. So, you know, he'd be a great buy for someone, and it'd probably get him a pay rise even if he dropped down a level. But yeah, he's not going to be featuring for us this season. I'd be amazed if he was the answer.
Is there any way back for any of those other players you mentioned, Emily? I suppose I'm thinking of Emmanuel Dennis. We've discussed this briefly, but can you see any scenario where he comes back into the side?
I suppose the only difference is we have a different manager at the helm, don't we? So could Nuno get a tune out of Emmanuel Dennis? Maybe. You know, he'll know what Emmanuel Dennis's strengths and weaknesses are. So maybe if he sees something in him, he might bring him back and be the Emmanuel Dennis that was firing those goals for Watford. Doesn't fill me with hope. You know, if you were to tell me that Emmanuel Dennis was coming back to us, I just think all those players that we've mentioned, you know, I think we've moved on. I think we've moved on from them. And I think that, yeah, I don't see a way back. I'm trying to think of positives here, but I just don't see a way back for any of them into our squad. The way that, you know, we're looking up, we're not looking down. So, like you say, if we were in the Championship, then they'd probably feature. But I think we have moved on through a few transfer windows whereby we've got better players available.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's anyone who's out on loan that could come back. The only name really, and that's a big long shot, is Omar Richards if he gets a big run of games for Olympiacos. But then we've got Toffolo and Olorena. If we extend Olorena's contract, then it feels like he's not really needed as well. Right. If anyone's got any questions for the next 10 minutes or so, drop them in. There's a couple more we'll go through in the meantime before we depart that have been submitted on Twitter. But if you've got any, drop them in and we'll wade through them for 5 or 10 minutes or so. I can field one from Adrian Warren. Possibly a daft question, but if FFP is for 3 years past, what's to stop us buying big before the judgment is passed? You can't really do that, Asian, because it's a rolling annual thing. So if you buy big in one window, you're screwing yourself for the next one.
That's the type of thing I'd do. That's what I do. Yeah, chuckle.
It's like spending all your wages on payday, isn't it? And then not being able to pay your electric bill. It's kind of like that.
Living in January.
Yeah. Kids can't have everything they want for Christmas, or you end up eating tins of beans for a long time. I hope that isn't what happens to Forest, but we'll find out a bit more on Monday, certainly. One from Simon Morgan. Cup replays during a break in league games. Does their value outweigh their inconvenience? I suppose the question is, are we saying cup replays should be abolished now, Greg? What do you think?
I think this one's going to do us a favour. I think Nuno gets another game to set up for the Brentford one, and I think we'll see a stronger performance at Brentford because of it. I don't think you can abolish replays, and I wouldn't want to, because the beauty of the FA Cup is seeing a lower league, National League side make millions of pounds because they've drew Man United away, and that's the beauty of the Cup, and it shouldn't be changed. Maybe in the later rounds, it's a fifth round or something, that's it, no replays. But no, not in the third and fourth round. It is what it is, and it can save a club. So I'd hate to see that go. But whilst you got your Peps and all them saying they should be, I'd be in no doubt that it probably will come in eventually.
Yeah, I'd still keep them. I think it's a bit snobbish of us as a Premier League club currently.
It's very elitist. Yeah, it's really elitist, isn't it, to think that, just because it's an inconvenience to us, it's such a huge thing for those lower clubs, and that can be their big moment. And I really have zero sympathy for the Forest players that are having to play an extra game. I love my team, don't get me wrong, but winter breaks are so new, aren't they, in the grand scheme of things, and that they've still got time. I know a few of them have gone off to Dubai for a few days, so I'm sure they're getting a little break. And we're not playing this weekend. I know we've got obviously the midweek in Blackpool, but for me, it's a real positive because it just gives us that extra game time that we so desperately need in terms of working out who Nuno does and doesn't want before the end of January.
Yeah, I remember working in Burton at the start of my career, and they drew Man United at home and got a replay, and it effectively bought them a stadium, really. So
I remember that. Yeah, they took about 10,000, didn't they, to Old Trafford?
Yeah, PK played in the first game, didn't he? It was in a mud bath, and I think they drew 0-0 or something. So yeah, I'd retain replays certainly. Let's take a couple of questions then before we depart. One from Paul Trenter. First team for Blackpool or keep Brentford in mind, Greg?
This is the thing. Like when Gibbs White started last week, I thought, oh God, like if he gets injured, that's catastrophic for the season. What a risk! But I think we have to get through against Blackpool. Losing out on this mini break that we'd got, we've got to get a result. So I think we go really strong, and then, like I say, set us up for the Brentford game.
What about you, Emily?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'd because my idea for the Blackpool game at home was that we start with the starting 11 that we have, and then we start subbing players in the 60th minute, but obviously it didn't work like that. I think for our confidence, for our season, we need to start really strong, because actually what will it do for our players' confidence if we get tanked at Blackpool again? So I'd rather start strong, and then maybe if we can get a semi-decent lead in that game, then maybe start bringing off the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and giving him a little rest.
Yeah, there's only like a change up front I might make to give Wood a rest if Origi's fit, or maybe even start Sapper Song, who's a young lad who's doing well, but otherwise I'd go pretty strong. If we mix it and match it too much, I think we'll just have another version of last season on our hands. So I think we can go for it. Question from Gary about Lewis O'Brien. Yeah, he's still on the books. He's at Middlesbrough. He had a terrible injury, which I think has basically ended his season. His Forest career never really got going, unfortunately. Fergus asking about Elanga's injury being worse than reported. Well, yeah, that's a bit of a rumour, but we'll have to wait and see. But obviously it would be, a big blow if he's certainly out for a while. I'll just scroll through and see if there's any more. This is good audio, isn't it?
Nothing from Steve Allen. I keep seeing his name pop
there
up.
is one from Steve Allen. I was literally about to put that on. Steve Allen, what's the point of going strong v Blackpool then lose to West Ham? Why do we have to lose to West Ham?
It's unbelievable. He'll be going to Blackpool as well, you know.
Is that your Steve, Greg?
It's not my Steve, but it is the Steve, yeah.
Shut up, Steve.
Yeah, you've inherited him, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I think that covers just about all the bases tonight. Obviously, no game at the weekend. A few Premier League teams are playing, but not us. We play next week in the second half of the game week, so we shall see how we shape up for Brentford. What's your early thoughts on that game, Greg? Because I know you hate Brentford.
Oh, yeah. You know, Thomas Frank just drives me insane. I would love to. They're my tip to go down. They were at the start of the season. I'm going to stick with it. It's massive. It's a huge game because it's a winnable game. The issue is who they've got coming back for it. There's going to be such a song and dance. I'm just hoping Arsenal come in this week and get their star man off them. But we certainly owe them one. I was devastated at the game last season. So let's just continue our good away form and get some in there.
Fergus Wadley, wild card in FPL. No, not yet, Fergus. Not yet.
Too early.
I wouldn't. It's too early. Wait for double game weeks and things like that, and blank game weeks, and we'll see what the lay of the land is. I managed not to take any hits this week. Greg Oram, Luton v Burnley. What score suits us best? Do we have to not worry about that, Emily? I mean, I'd say Burnley win if we had to pick one, but should we just be thinking about ourselves?
I don't think we worry about that. I think, you can get yourself really stressed and anxious, can't you, if you keep worrying about what other teams are doing. As long as we keep doing the business, we don't need to worry about Luton and Burnley because we've got a cushion on them at the moment, barring any FPL deduction. I don't really care. I don't care at all. And also, with regards to Ivan Toney, let's not worry about him.
What? I'm very worried about him.
I mean, who even is he?
He'll be in Matt's FPL team, no doubt.
That's what I was going to say about Ivan Toney. He's the most transferred in player for this game week.
Yeah.
Is he?
So, according to my... Oh, no, I've just been told not quite. He's one of the most transferred players in for this FPL game week. So that's even more incentive for him to hit a blank.
Is that a Leicester fan in the background there?
Yeah, tell him to pipe down.
Just some random guy.
I might start an FPL podcast next season. I've sounded someone out. So, as a bit of a side project.
Me as the expert.
If you do, Matt, in all seriousness, if you do, Matt, my other half would be a great guest because he is an FPL nerd, a self-confessed FPL nerd. So
as am I. It's a very.
There you go. You're a match. You're a match made in heaven.
Exactly. Right. If you liked this stream, do us a favour and like and subscribe. 370 people watching. We're not really talking about much at the moment, so very grateful for that. Do us a favour, like and subscribe. Like I say, you can become a channel member as well. Now, have we had any more questions before we go? No, don't think so. Any other business, Greg, before we depart?
I want you to clip that "shut up, Steve" comment from Emily for me. So send it in. Just beat the streets. It's coming 28th of January. It's for an amazing cause to help the homeless in and around Nottingham that I'm sure we've seen is becoming like such a bad thing, worse than ever. So beat the streets on Sunday the 28th. I think it's 15 quid a ticket now. Every penny goes towards that great charity, and the live music is just brilliant every year. There'll be a big group of us there, so come down if you can.
Someone asked if you've got a day job earlier, Greg, and now someone's asking, do you know my cousin Rich Straw? It's not a spoof name, is it?
No, yeah, I do actually. But I'm not. Of course, I've got. Yeah.
What you mean? You don't just do this all day, Greg?
Yeah.
It's just me, just that.
Yeah, I'm very busy always. I've had a tough week.
Oh, Greg.
You went for a walk. I've had a tough week. I went for a walk with you, with Milo, your dog, and my welly's flooded, and I had to walk back with trench foot for about a mile. Thanks to all of you for becoming a member as well. Emily, anything before we depart?
Nothing at all. I'm going to go back to my wine. So enjoy my Friday night. I might watch the Traitors, bit of the Burnley game, maybe. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I've loved it, and I keep forgetting that we're on a live podcast. So maybe this
has been the most freewheeling podcast that we've done. You can tell there's no game at the weekend, and we've gone all over the shop. So yeah, thanks for everyone who's been with us for the duration. Last 40 minutes of largely nonsense. So very much appreciate your company. We shall be back on Monday with Lewis, get his take on FFP and anything that comes out of that. Obviously, Orel Mangala as well, because I know Lewis is as big as Myra and wanting him to play higher up the pitch and certainly beyond the pitch. So get his thoughts on any potential departure for him. And who else is with us? Temps is the other person, and it's a busy week. There'll be podcasts basically every day, 6 podcasts next week when there is a lot of stuff to talk about. So yeah, do join us for that. Emily, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks to wine, Greg. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone. See you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks for your company. Have a good weekend, everyone, and we shall see you soon.